Hello! Welcome to Getting Psyched about the science of psychology. We hope you learn something new and get excited about the field of psychology. You might be asking yourself, what is the science of psychology? You might not even know that psychology is a science. Well, psychology is a very broad topic, but it's probably good to think of it as a scientific study of how people feel, their emotions, how people think, their thoughts, and how they behave. As you can imagine, psychology is a really big field that has many interesting areas or subfields. Right now, I want to tell you briefly about some of the fields in psychology, and then later in this video, you'll learn more details about some of those areas. Social psychology is the area of psychology aimed at understanding social interactions. A social psychologist might investigate how people influence each other. Perception is the area of psychology aimed at understanding how our senses work. A perceptual psychologist investigates how we see, hear sounds, smell odors, taste food, or feel touch on our skin. Cognitive psychology is an area that investigates how we think. A cognitive psychologist might be interested in how we solve problems, how we remember things, how we learn, and other interesting topics.
Developmental psychology is an area that investigates how we change as we grow throughout our lifetime. Some developmental psychologists focus their attention on how babies and children develop. Others investigate how people change later in life. Physiological psychology, sometimes called biopsychology, is an area of psychology that aims at understanding how the brain and the rest of the nervous system influence behaviors, feelings, thoughts, and other psychology-related topics. This area of psychology is very similar to biology, but biopsychologists aren't just interested in how the brain and the nervous system works. They attempt to understand how the brain works to influence behaviors, thoughts, and feelings. Behavior analysis is an area of psychology that investigates how things in the environment influence behavior. For example, a behavior analyst might study how reinforcement shapes what people do.
Clinical psychology and counseling psychology is another area of psychology. Clinical psychologists and counselors use scientific evidence to come up with ways to help people who have mental health challenges, such as anxiety and depression. There are many other areas within psychology. As you can see, psychology is a big field with lots of interesting topics. Now we're going to take a few minutes to take a more in-depth look into some of the areas within the science of psychology.
As you now know, a perceptual psychologist is interested in understanding how we see, hear, taste, smell, or touch. Many perceptual psychologists are interested in visual illusions. Now, let's look at and try to understand some visual illusions.
So now I'm going to show you all a video of a waterfall. I want you to stare at the middle of the waterfall the entire time the video is playing. This video is about 45 seconds long, and while that might not sound like a long time, it'll probably feel like a long time. But remember to keep your eyes on the middle of the waterfall the entire time the video is playing. When I stop the video, I want you to tell me what you see. Remember to keep your eyes on the middle of the waterfall. It'll stop in about 15 seconds. So, what did you see when the waterfall stopped? For some people, they see a slight upward movement, even though the water is not moving at all. This movement is known as the waterfall illusion. If you didn't see the illusion, that's okay, because sometimes this illusion is a bit subtle. But why do people see this illusion at all in the first place? Well, essentially, it's because after you watch the waterfall moving downwards for a while, cells in the brain that signal that downward motion change the way they respond.
So, which red line do you think is longer? Well, most people would say that the upper red line is longer. This is an illusion because both the bottom and the top red lines are actually the same length. Here, let me show you. If we put the two lines together, we can see that they're actually the same length. This is called the Ponzo illusion. So why do we see this? The key here are the up and down black lines that are coming together at the top. Those make our visual system see that the upper red line is at a farther distance than the lower red line. And this perceived distance, it makes us see that the upper red line is longer than the lower red line.
Here's another illusion that's really powerful. Do you think these rings are moving? It might be hard to believe, but these rings are not moving. This is often called the rotating snakes illusion. Why do we see this illusion? Although the reasons we see this illusion are complicated, our experience of this illusion is influenced by the very tiny automatic movements that our eyes make when we look at things. Hopefully you've enjoyed learning a little bit about the science of perception and visual illusions. Next, you'll learn about another area about the science of psychology.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anna Gishard. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Psychology and Child Development, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about social psychology. So social psychology is an area of focus within the broader field of psychology that focuses on how other people influence your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And this is a really broad subfield, and it covers many different topics, including issues like prejudice, stereotyping and discrimination, social perception and social influence, and even seeks to understand how we understand and experience our close relationships, like our friendships or our romantic relationships.
So a topic that falls under this big umbrella of social psychology is how we interact with people, right? How we look at them, what we think about them, things like that. And so a theory that falls under this big umbrella of social psychology is the theory that people with symmetrical faces are found to be more attractive than those with asymmetrical faces. So symmetrical faces being same on each side, asymmetrical is a little off on one side or the other. And so up here on the PowerPoint, we have a picture of Miss Angelina Jolie, who is known for her symmetrical features. And we have Owen Wilson, who's known for his asymmetrical features. And there are studies that have been found that attractiveness increases with symmetry. And as well as spatial symmetry is correlated with attractiveness in both men and women. So there's studies that have found that this to be true for both men and women. And a lot of people would agree that those with symmetrical faces are more attractive.
Let's explore a psychological phenomenon known as the halo effect. The halo effect can have a profound impact on how we perceive people and things, and it's important to be aware of its effects in order to make more accurate judgments and decisions. The halo effect is a cognitive bias that occurs when our overall impression of a person, product, or company influences our judgments of specific traits or characteristics associated with that person or thing. In other words, our positive or negative feelings about something can color our perceptions of specific attributes, even if those attributes have no direct relationship. One common example of the halo effect is when we perceive physically attractive people as being smarter or more competent, maybe even more reliable than less attractive people. The halo effect can also apply to people's reputations, with a well-respected individual being given the benefit of the doubt in situations where others might not. Although the halo effect can be useful in making quick judgments or in situations where we have limited information, it can also lead to biases and errors in judgment. For example, it can cause us to overlook flaws in someone or something that we like, or to unfairly judge others who don't fit our preconceived notions. To avoid being swayed by the halo effect, it's important to try to make objective judgments based on specific criteria rather than an overall impressions. This can involve breaking down our evaluations into specific categories and assessing each one independently. Additionally, we can try to become more aware of our own biases and to consciously challenge them when they arise. In conclusion, the halo effect is a powerful psychological phenomenon that can have both positive and negative effects on our perceptions. By being aware of its influence, we can work to make more objective and accurate judgments in our personal and professional lives. Thank you.
Okay, so social psychology is this broad topic that looks at a lot of different areas related to psychology. And one of the most fertile areas of research has been in the field of stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about discrimination today. So discrimination is described as a negative action or unfavorable treatment directed towards someone because of their either real or perceived group membership. So in other words, if someone belongs to a group that you don't have positive feelings about, and you identify this person as belonging to that group, you might treat them differently, in fact, negatively, as compared to someone from a different group about whom you have positive feelings or thoughts. So discrimination is studied because it is so important and has so many effects on individuals who are faced with being discriminated against. So for example, discrimination can affect your opportunities to get an education, to attend certain social settings, or live in certain communities. It is associated with denying people their civil rights and even denying people housing. So I'm going to tell you about one study that was done several years ago, and it's pretty straightforward. So the researchers went online and through listings on, for example, Craigslist, they identified landlords who were trying to rent apartments. And then the researchers sent emails to those landlords, and they actually contacted over 1,000 landlords. And all of them received, all the landlords received the same email that asked for more information about the apartment that was for rent that the person saw advertised online. Now, the landlords didn't know that there were researchers sending emails. They thought that the requests were coming from real people. Now, the researchers did one more thing. They kept all of the emails they sent the same, except for one manipulation. They manipulated the name at the bottom of the email so that landlords thought the emails were either coming from a generic Caucasian applicant named Patrick McDougall, a generic African-American applicant named Tyrell Jackson, or a generic Arab applicant named Saeed Al-Rahman. And so what the researchers were hoping to see is if the landlords, based on the names attached to these emails, if they treated the applicants differently. And what they found is that the white-sounding applicant, that was Patrick McDougall, he received more responses overall as compared to the responses that Tyrell and Saeed received. And furthermore, Patrick McDougall received more positive responses. So he had responses that came back from landlords that said things like, yes, the apartment is still available. We would love to show it to you. Let's make an appointment for you to come and see it. Whereas the emails that were received to both Tyrell and Saeed, they were less positive, less encouraging. So more likely to say things like, I'm sorry, the apartment's been rented, or we're booked. We don't have any time to show it this week. So we're sorry, we can't accommodate you. Right. So this study, which is relatively, again, simple and straightforward, landlords responded to who they thought were real applicants, but in fact weren't. It was just the researchers, and the researchers found that the names attached to the emails did influence whether the landlords followed up or not, or encouraged people to apply to rent a home. So in this way, we can see that people's discrimination, in this case specifically against African Americans and Arab Americans, led to landlords being less willing to rent to those individuals. If you think this is interesting, there's a lot more research on this topic and other related topics in the field of social psychology. Thank you so much for your time.
Behavior analysis is an area in psychology that investigates how things in the environment influence behavior. We can use principles of behavior analysis to learn something new, like how to play a game, or increase behaviors like eating more fruits and vegetables. We will show you a few examples of how things in the environment influence what we do. One important principle in behavior analysis that helps us understand why we keep doing things is reinforcement. Positive reinforcement means that you keep doing a behavior because it makes you feel good, or because it gets you something that you enjoy. Watch this example and see if you can spot the behavior or what the person is doing and the positive reinforcer, or what the person gets.
Wow, good job, Nav. High five.
Did you catch it? In the video, I threw a paper on the ground and my friend Jordan didn't say anything. The next time I threw a paper in the garbage, my friend Jordan told me I did a good job and gave me a high five. I like when my friends say nice things to me. Now I throw a paper in the garbage again on my own. The behavior was throwing the paper in the garbage, and the positive reinforcer was my friend's encouragement, the good job and the high five. Great. Can you think of something you do because it makes you feel good or because it gets you something you like? Negative reinforcement, like positive reinforcement, helps us understand why we keep doing certain things. But negative reinforcement means that you keep doing a behavior because it makes something you didn't like go away. Watch this example and see if you can spot the behavior or what the person is doing and the negative reinforcement, or what goes away after the behavior.
So annoying.
Did you catch it? In the video, Jordan was in her car and that annoying beeping was happening. When she buckled the seatbelt, the beeping stopped. The next time she got in her car, she buckled up right away, so she didn't have to hear that annoying beeping. The behavior was buckling her seatbelt, and the negative reinforcer was the beeping. Awesome. Can you think of something you do because it makes something you don't like stop or go away?
Sometimes learning something new can be really hard. Shaping is a way to change behavior little by little, or in small steps over time. Each time you get a little closer to your goal, you get reinforcement or something good. Watch this example and see if you can spot the little steps and the final goal. Good job, high five! Good job! Good job, high five! Good job!
Now we do the
Good job! High five! Good girl! Did you catch it? In the video, my daughter was learning to write the letter B. First, she's told good job and gets a high five just for drawing a line, because that's the first step. Then she's told good job and gets a high five after she draws a line and makes a circle at the top. She's getting closer. And finally, she is told good job and gets a high five after she draws a straight line, makes a circle at the top, and makes a circle at the bottom, completing the letter B. She did it. Can you think of something you learned to do little by little?
We learn a lot of clues in our environment that help us decide if doing something is going to get us a reinforcer or not. When we learn that a clue means the behavior will get us a reinforcer, we call that a discriminative stimulus. When that clue or discriminative stimulus is not there, the behavior will not get us the reinforcer, so we might stop trying that behavior when the clue is not there. Watch this example and see if you can spot the behavior, the discriminative stimulus, or the clue and the reinforcer.
Let's go in there. Sounds good to me. Oh, it's locked. I guess the red means it's locked. Oh, look, this one's green. We can go in.
Did you catch it? That one was a little tricky. We tried to open the door when the light was red, but it didn't open. When we come back and the light is green, we can open the door and get inside. Now we have learned that the color is a clue. The green light is a discriminative stimulus. The behavior is opening the door, and the reinforcer is getting into the room. We will keep trying to open the door when the light is green, but we'll stop trying to open the door when the light is red. Phew, you got it! Nice work! Can you think of clues in your environment that help you decide what to do? Let's look at one more video of a pigeon named Charlie from our pigeon lab here at Stan State. Charlie is learning to tell the difference between the figurines of Flash and Superman. Notice several of the things that you've already learned are in this video. You will see behavior, the pigeon pecking. There's a clue or a discriminative stimulus. In this case, the clues are the colored cards that Charlie learned will tell him which figurine to pick. And there is positive reinforcement. Charlie gets food when he picks the correct figure.
In this video, we'll see what our pigeon named Charlie learned from his student trainer this semester. The student was to teach this bird a conditional discrimination. In a conditional discrimination, there will be two choices the bird can make, and the correct choice will be conditional upon a second stimulus being present. So in this task, if you watch the video, you'll see that the student presents a colored card, blue or orange. The bird is to peck the blue card to tell us that he saw it, and then go to the figurine that matches the card. In this case, blue means that Superman is correct. When he's shown the orange card, that means the Flash figurine is correct. So the bird makes the correct choice and then is given food for reinforcement. Each trial begins with the presentation of the colored card stimulus. We call this the sample stimulus. And when the bird pecks that causes the student to present the figurines. Those are the comparison stimuli. When the bird makes his correct choice, he gets the food reinforcement. If he were to make an incorrect choice, in other words, when he pecks blue, he would go and peck the wrong figurine like Flash. The student would remove the figurines and the card, count to about 5 or 10 seconds as a little timeout before she would then present the same trial over again. This bird is doing very well, as you can see. He's gotten several correct in a row.
Thanks for learning about behavior analysis with us. We hope that you can start to see how things in our environment influence what we do. Next time you do something, you might ask yourself, why did I do that? In other words, what's the reinforcer?
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you learned something new about the science of psychology. This presentation was prepared by the Stan State chapters of Psyched, the International Honor Society in Psychology, and SOBA, the Student Organization of Behavior Analysis. Stan State student presenters included Noreen Singh, Stephen Peralta, Isabel Hernandez, Santiago Elizondo, Samantha Castro, Jennifer Cameron, Jocelyn Barajas, Nina Leiden, Holly Taylor, Nafpreet Kaur, Jordan Monk, and Hope Polymer. Our faculty mentors on this project were Katie Wisco, Shannon Bianchi, Anne-Marie Gouchard, and Gary Williams. Thank you!